How's everyone doing today? Good, good. I see some familiar faces and some of you that have come to my booth already. So yeah, thanks Tina for that introduction. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about astrology and the language of astrology. How many of you are familiar with your astrology? Nice. Okay, cool, because that gives me more to talk about, because then I can wow you more if you're not so familiar, right? All right, so one of the things that is so amazing to know is that the language of astrology, at the moment that you were born, there was a snapshot in the heavens that says everything about you. No two in the entire universe are the same. Does that give you kind of a little peek into how individual and unique each one of us really truly are? So it's more than just the fact that you say, oh, I'm a Scorpio, or I'm a Cancer, or I'm a Gemini, right? It's knowing that at the time of our birth, out in the universe, these things where all of these constellations are at, they're called houses. And as these houses, each are represented with a character trait or a personality or like a scene of your life. So when you were born, every one of the planets were in some of these houses. Sometimes they're in a bunch of them, and sometimes they're just in like one, and some have none in them. All of that has meaning for you. So at that time, all the planets affect your life. They all affect our culture. There are some planets that are literally shapers of generations because they take 200 years to move through our chart. Or excuse me, not our chart, to move around the zodiac, right? So then there's the ones like the moon who hit every one of these houses once a month for 2 or 3 days on average. And those affect our emotional self. The moon is about our emotions. Then there's the sun that travels around once a year, and that's how we are like right now in the sign of Scorpio. Next month we'll be in the sign of Sagittarius, and so forth, okay? All right, so beyond just having this idea of this astrology, there are syncretisms in all of life. So this right here is Adam Kadmon. Adam Kadmon is known as the primordial man. In this last slide that I just showed you, we see that the round circle of the zodiac, right? That's our perspective because we're on the planet Earth. But if we were to stretch that out, we would actually see when they take Adam Kadmon, the image of the man, and at the top is Aries, in the throat would be Taurus, moving down would be Gemini in the lungs, in the stomach would be Cancer, and it moves all the way down till we hit Pisces in the feet, okay? So if we were to take our bodies and put them in the constellations, this is how they affect us too, okay? So there's going to be more about that. How many of you are familiar with the Kabbalah? Briefly. And how about chakras? Okay, how about the elements? Earth, air, water, fire. And of course we have the zodiac over here. So I've studied the Kabbalah for 1 year, and the Kabbalah was amazing, but it's a lifetime study that many people take and know so much more. But the coolest thing about it was when I started taking the information that I've studied for 30 years and pulling it all together, realizing that all of this connects to the astrology. Everything comes together in a synchronistic way for every single one of us. Not just some of us, not just if you believe it or you don't believe it. It's a fact. There are many authors throughout history who have done this study. And in that they have shared even the interpretations through our Holy Bible and how those same synchronistic things that took place show up in our stars. It's incredible. People, it's so cool to know how much information is out there that is accumulative for each one of us. I don't know about you, but for me, it really marks the truth of how unique and individual we are once again. And collectively, we're all in the same game. We're all getting the same information and being influenced by so many of these teachings. And yet we have, sometimes in life, a belief that we're all separate. That this religion isn't the same as this religion, and this one is more true, and that one's not, and that's a fake thing. And the truth is, there's truth in all of it, and there's fake in all of it. There's stuff we make up. There's our own reality that we all individually live, and my truth may not be your truth. and vice versa, right? But there is a collective truth, and there's a harmony within all of it that actually resonates with every teaching that's out there. That's incredible, right? Okay, so I talked on this just a little bit, but we'll go a little bit further. So there are 12 zodiac constellations. There are 12 systems in our bodies. Did you know that? How many of you knew that? I didn't know that until I started studying this either. And there are 12 cell salts, the mineral cell salts, one for each of the systems in our body, one for each of the zodiac. Okay, that's pretty cool, right? So if we're looking at our 12 zodiac constellations, everybody just take a minute here, a second anyway, and just notice when you are. If you don't already know what your birthday is and what you are as far as your zodiac. I know you know your birthday, but find your birthday and find your zodiac is what I'm saying. Okay, so right to the right of that, we also see some of the strengths are the first thing listed for each of those, and the second listing are the weaknesses, the challenges rather. Okay, so somebody volunteer and tell me what you are.
Gemini.
Okay, is this true for you?
Yes, I'm very, very affectionate. And sometimes I get spread out because I'm an air sign, so I get spread out so thin that it's hard for me to bring everything back together into one piece. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Does it make sense to the rest of you? Yep. Good. Who else would like to say what you are?
I'm Libra.
Okay.
So cooperative, yes. And indecisive, yes. But that's something that knowing that I'm working on and talking through that in a lot of ways.
Really good point. So both of you are air signs, right? But the thing that I like that you just said is knowing that gives me the ability to work on that. I can actually take my weakness, not winkness, your weakness, and turn it into a strength or something that you can use for you. And that's the purpose of creating or understanding this type of language. Life is a language. Would everyone agree with that? No matter what system you're looking at, it's a language. And just knowing how to use that language is really what gives us the empowerment in our lives, which is why I've studied so many things, because I love to be empowered, but plus I'm a Scorpio. And so being a Scorpio, I'm all about transformation and change, and things have to be moving and always going, right? So we also have, anybody else would like to say? I saw a hand, yeah.
I am reliable and stubborn.
Oh, there you are, a Taurus. One of my business partners is a Taurus, and I can definitely tell you that that is exactly what she would say too. Okay, so everybody's kind of, reason I'm saying make sure you know what you are, because when I move to another screen, I'm going to ask some more stuff, and I want you to know. So here are the 12 body systems. We don't necessarily have to go through every single one of these, but just take a quick gander at this, and you'll see and you'll understand here are our body systems that all tie in with our zodiac signs. And isn't it interesting that there are 12 zodiac signs and that there were 12 disciples in the Bible? What do you think about that? Something to ponder. Here's the 12 cell salts. Now, something that I thought was kind of funny on my part was that years ago, studying all this type of information, I would go to the health food store, and I was starting to get a little bit into homeopathics, right? And somebody says to me, oh, if you take these, this will be like everything that you need. And I bought them. I said, okay, that's really cool. And they're just little pellets, but I could never really remember what they said they were for. So I start studying this, and I go through my cabinet at home because I think that there is a bottle of this thing, right? And the funniest thing is that right now I can't tell you what they're called, but I'm going to in a second. So I go to the cupboard and I open it up, and there it was. This, wow, I love it when that happens. I'll come back around that because it will come back through again. But there is one thing that you can take that is a homeopathic remedy that's all 12 cell salts. Now, an interesting part about the cell salts is that when you were born, if you were in your mother's womb growing for 9 months, you received through the sun, through your mother, 9 of these cell salts. Okay? So all of us, if we had a normal 9 months, we are missing 3, naturally. So we get these from our food, yes, right? They all look pretty normal. We all see these before. And so some of what we study is where do these foods provide these cell salts to, okay? And if you were born in less than the 9-month period of time, like my sister, she had children very early. And so they are missing probably more like 5 of their cell salts because they were 2 months early, 10.5 weeks early. So, kind of give thought to, with those cell salts are hooking up to body systems, where is that possibly affecting our health? And can we empower ourselves by taking these cell salts, right? So if we were to take the constellation that I showed you in the beginning that's in a circle, and then we were to actually see the Adam Kadmon stretched like in a circle like the circle it is, instead of stretched out like he was in the first one, we would actually see that there is a lot of information. Here we have Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn. It all goes around the outside. We can actually see that right over here, Aries is where the head is in the head. That's where all astrology starts, is in the head. Well, isn't it true that that's where everything starts, is in the head, right? If our mind is clear and powerful, we move through life in a different way than if we're feeling cloudy, right? So everything starts here, and then it moves through. So this is just a little diagram. Again, some more of the studying, going a little bit deeper into how astrology is in the body. Even sacred geometry, right? We see all the buildup of the sacred geometry. And the seasons. There's a lot of information on these charts that would take a class to show you, but you get the idea. This is why I wanted to use the visuals, because it's so much more than my mouth can say in a short period of time. What do you think about that? Does that make you kind of go, wow, this is more connected. It means more than just, hey, I'm a sun sign, right? Okay, so going back to some of our 3 basic signs. Much of the time when we do astrology charts, we want to know our sun sign. That's the one that everybody knows. We want to know the rising / ascendant. It means the same thing. And then we want to know our moon sign. These 3 signs are the ones who affect us most regularly. Not that the others do not, but this is kind of our daily, monthly, yearly action. So our sun sign represents the ego personality, the one that we go out and we show the world. It's kind of, our ego, like we say, is the place where we hide behind our true self, right? Our true self is our rising sign, because that's the one when we're finally comfortable with people and when we have grown into who we are, then we're willing to step into being that rising sign. Does that make sense? Most of it happens as we go along in life, and we are educated, and we've gone through a few things in life, and now suddenly we're like, oh, I'm ready to be this part of me now. Our family usually sees the rising sign, though, right? Even the underside, or the weakness of the rising sign, because there's a strength and a weakness in all of them. Okay? And then our moon sign, as I mentioned before, is our emotional side. So when you do charts, you compare, say like a relationship chart. You can actually be looking at moon sign to moon sign, apples to apples, right? So it's not just looking at your sun or your rising, but also your moon. So how does my partner interact with their emotions versus my emotions? Because that's a lot of information that you're able to glean from understanding each other. So the point of the language of astrology is not only to understand ourselves better, to know thyself, right? But to know the other people and to remove judgment from other people. Because much of the time, we will see somebody, like a woman today shared with me that her sign and the way that she is, people often think that she's like not willing to engage with them and that she's stuck up or all these things. And she says, I'm not, I'm just a Virgo, and I just happen to be really choosy about who I let have all my energy. But if we understood somebody was a certain sign and that they're maybe more reserved, then we would maybe give them a little break, right? Instead of always thinking, oh, they're just, and projecting our stuff onto them because we think we see that. We could start to communicate as a world in a much better way. Would you agree? Does anybody have any questions or comments on this part? Yeah.
I know sometimes I'm a school teacher, and so sometimes it helps when I know the signs of my students, because it helps me to deal with them a little bit better. So I just pop out once in a while, so when's your birthday? Just out of here, and they look at me like, really?
Uh-huh.
That's what I'd ask.
I love that. I use that tool as a hairstylist. I use all the tools that I study in the esoteric sciences, because when people sit in my chair, and it's predominantly women, but I do have some male clients, they sit in the chair and we're touching that head space, right? And everything begins in the head, and suddenly the energy starts to flow. And I always tell people, this 5-foot radius, nothing of your information leaves this space, and it doesn't go to anybody else ever, right? But it's important for me to be able to connect with them. So I'll say, so what is your sign? So what do you know? Or if they're having conflict with their children, well, tell me their sign. And then I start to describe who they are based on a few of these simple things to remember that we'll go into next. So, knowing what element you are is a quick way, or understanding what the elements are, earth, air, water, fire, is a really quick way to get to know somebody and to understand their energy. So if I am a water element, water elements, waters flow deep. Waters have a lot of energy about them, right? You can have a simple stream, but you can also have a tidal wave, okay? When you move into the fire, fires are passionate, exciting, they move, but if they go too much, they burn out. Air signs, they're thinkers. They're communicators at a certain level. Even if it's not coming out of their mouth, they're thinking about everything that's going on around them. And earth signs are your stable people. They're the ones who want stability in their life. They look for those zones that everything feels like it's got a purpose and a place. What sign are you?
Me?
Uh-huh.
I'm a Virgo.
Because I'm like, she's earth. I'm just looking at her, I keep looking at her, and like, you are so earth. And Virgo is an earth sign.
Oh, it is?
Okay? Yeah. So I thought, I didn't want to embarrass myself just in case I was projecting, right? But I thought, I'm like, she's so earth, she's so earth. It just had you really caught my attention as earth. So you probably have really strong earth energy. So cool. Anybody questions on these? Okay. The next part that's interesting to know that adds, see how many components there are to this? It's just more than your sun sign, right? It just goes so many places. So if you are a cardinal sign, which is the people who get things started, okay? And if to use my husband's analogy over another type of system that we've looked into, you would be the person who would say, let's have a party. Okay, those fire signs, they come along, or those cardinal signs, they want to get the party started. You come along to the fixed signs, and they're going to stick to the plan. They're going to make sure the plan actually gets followed through, everything happens, it's all coordinated, and the whole thing. And then the mutable people, they come along, and because they can see both sides to something, they work out the details, okay? Then you have your success. We all know people who are all these signs, and this is a little peek into those people. So as a Scorpio, I am fixed, and I'm a water sign. What would that tell you about me? Somebody just guess.
Well, that you're set in your ways, but you don't mind treading a little water to get somewhere else. Does that make sense?
I like that one. Yeah, definitely. That's good. I like that. I'm the person that when the cardinal comes up with the idea, I'm like, all right, I'll make it happen. If it kills me, I will make this happen, right? I'm the one you can rely on. I am steadfast loyal. I will 100% get this done, even if everything else is only half done. But that's usually not the case either, because really for your fixed signs, everything's going to get done, because that's just part of it. You'll go without sleep, you'll go without food and other things just to get those things done. So somebody else tell me what your signs are. Yeah. Okay. So here we have, you're mutable, and you're also water. So Pisces are very intuitive. They're one of the most intuitive, all the water signs are intuitive, but the Pisces are really strong in their intuition. So being mutable, you also have that ability to really, it's kind of like you can see both sides of a situation, and so you're willing to like work out the details as it incorporates everything. Does that feel like you? Somebody else. Just say what you are. Yeah. You're Sagittarius. So here we have you under fire and mutable. Again, you are, as a Sagittarius, you're filled with knowledge. You like knowledge. You're a seeker of knowledge. And at the same time, you like inspirational things that really move you along. And you have that mutable ability with you too, so that you are flexible at basically being able to see more than one side of something. Who else? Anybody? So one more part to this is that how many of you know about the tarot deck, the tarot cards? Okay, so the tarot deck is actually part of the Kabbalah. There are pathways in the Kabbalah between the Sephira that actually make up what these cards are. That's where these came from. They came from Jewish mysticism. So it's interesting that this chart of astrology is actually, and the sun and everything, is actually able to show you major arcana cards and how they show up through astrology. That's kind of cool too, huh? So syncretism is what this is really talking about. It's showing you that through astrology and through all these other modalities, everything comes together to create what it is that we're all about, our experience here on this planet. We came here to experience. We came here to know who we are so that we can use all those strengths and even those weaknesses to improve our life experience. If we don't like what's happening, change it, right? Learn something new and do something different. Because there's a huge candy dish of stuff to choose from. And the interesting thing is you start in one spot and it will go to the next spot. And you'll find yourself 30 or 40 years later, like myself, having studied a lot of things and still finding more things to study. So my offer for you today, if you are interested in knowing more about the things that we just shared a teeny tiny bit about, I've got a 2-day online workshop. It will be through the Zoom app. It's 2 parts, November 13th, 6:30 to 9:30, November 20th, 6:30 to 9:30. So by signing up today, you'll not only get your natal chart and graphic, but you will also get your solar chart, okay? And if you happen to have purchased one of those charts from me today already, then we can replace it with a relationship chart or compatibility, okay? So you don't have to get the same chart twice. And the cost is $157. So just the charts alone on their normal price are a $50 value. So this is killer for you to take the time to be able to experience this and understand some more about who you are and how to apply it in your world and your business. And to receive even more off of this class, if you text this word, empower, to this number, then I will automatically send you a $20 off certificate. So I just want to say thank you for letting me be here today. All of these information are at my booth too. So are there any questions that anybody would like to ask before we? Yeah.
Your rising and your, not the middle one,
Your moon?
the moon, are the same.
Oh, there's a lot of different things about that because I actually have my sun and my rising are both the same, but I met a woman that's one of my husband's clients, and she was 3 Virgos. Like, imagine. They're stuck.
Good luck.
Anyway, so yeah, she's like all 3. She's so solid in her life, right? But a lot of times they say that when you have double or more, that it's a do-over life. So it really depends on what your belief system is around reincarnation or, eternal lifespans and things like that. There are a lot of different reasons for it, but really it's just, the report tells you so much about each one of those because the moon is going to hit you different than your rising or your sun. So like if your sun and your moon are both in the same sign, each one is going to hit you differently, but you're going to still have that double sign. Yeah.
What was the sacred geometry that went with the Taurus?
Let me.
Platonic solid.
Yes, platonic solids.
That is,
Here we are. Where are we? There we go. Yeah, it is the. Yep.
the flat line.
That's the line. Well, the platonic solid. Yes, it would be the line, the foundation.
Which is a masculine.
Yeah, that's another thing to bring up. Really, is that every one of these planets they go feminine, masculine, feminine, masculine, feminine, masculine. So sometimes you're feminine in your sign, and sometimes they're a masculine sign depending on the sign. And that's part of my big class too that we teach a lot of those things. So.
What about the
You have,
That Harry Potter.
it's like, yeah, it's like the circle. It's like the circle with the triangle in the center. There you go. Here we go. Sometimes it's different looking at. Okay, so you have here the heptagram. Heptagram. Yep.
So how do you know what sun sign and your rising sign?
So to get that information, it would be your birth date, your birth time, and your birth location. And those are the 3 things that we need to create a chart. Which I forgot to mention, I do have charts. If you give me your information, the charts are $20 today, and I can email them to you right from here. So if you have your information, if you don't, you can just email it to me too. So.
What if you're not sure because the hospital broke down? So, I mean, my birth certificate says like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but my mother said it was afternoon. So it wasn't.
That's not.
So it's like between like 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock.
But your birth certificate was registered at 3. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I'll just cover this real quick. But a lot of times hospitals left off that birth time. And I often wonder if it had to do with them trying to be part, because you can't really know yourself all the way through if you don't have that information, like as far as astrology goes, right? And there was a time when me standing here talking to you about this would have gotten me hung, right? So was that part of a conspiracy to keep people from knowing? I mean, just something to ponder. Don't know, but.
So how would that, but my question is how would that affect the chart?
It depends on what the degrees were within that span. So you would definitely have a possibility of one rising sign or into another rising sign. So you just have to run a chart for both signs if you were unsure. Like for me, I think that there's a 2-hour span for most of the rising signs anyway. So my mom was unsure. She always said 7 a.m., but I always feel at 6 a.m., but it didn't matter. And I feel that because she says my dad went pheasant hunting right after, and you usually don't pheasant hunt like at 8 a.m. Like, maybe you do, but just my thought, you know. Okay, well again, thank you so much.